What if there was a way to make more progress almost every single time you touched your guitar without doing more practice, without working harder, and without putting in any more effort into practicing than you do right now? Sounds impossible, I know, but check this out. Picture in your mind a burning building, and that building is like your guitar playing. The flames that are engulfing the building are all your problems, bad habits, frustrations, and all the general weaknesses that are holding you back right now from playing guitar the way you want. Now imagine a bucket of water. The bucket is your available practice time, and the amount of water that's in the bucket is the effectiveness and the efficiency of your practice time. And if your bucket is full to the brim with water, you can pour as much water on the fire as your bucket allows. In other words, your practice time is as effective as it can possibly be. Now imagine that your bucket has holes in it, and as you pick the bucket up to pour water over the burning building, some of the water leaks out. And you're only able to pour 80, 60, or maybe 40%, or maybe even less of the total amount of water that you started with. The rest just leaks out before you have a chance to pour it on the fire. And these little holes, or efficiency leaks as I call them, are making your practice time less effective than it could be. Now ironically, the one thing that most guitar players focus on is getting the biggest bucket they possibly can to carry their water in, i.e. increasing more practice time. Which, depending on your situation, may be possible or it may not be. Now what is possible in every single case is to simply plug the holes, plug the efficiency leaks in your bucket. And when you do, you start improving faster even if you don't practice 1 second longer than you do right now. Let me say this again because it's very, very important. The fastest way to make more progress in the same time you practice today, or maybe even in less time, is to plug the leaks that stop you from pouring as much of your progress water onto your guitar playing fire as your guitar practice bucket allows. And that's why when I'm training guitar players to practice inside Rapid Fire Guitar Practice Training Program, one of the first things I do for them is help them stop making mistakes that are holding their progress back before I teach them any new stuff to do that's going to make them improve even faster. And guitar players who do what I say start making more progress even if they have just 30 minutes to practice. So right now, I want to cover 4 most common mistakes I see guitar players make when they practice and help you stop making these mistakes so you have fewer holes in your guitar practice bucket. Here we go. Mistake number 1, creating practice schedules for just 1 day at a time. The problem with this is you can't fit all the things you want to practice into your schedule. So if you wait until, say, the night before, or worse, the day of, to plan your practice schedule, one of 2 things usually happens. A, you either leave out some important skills that need to be in your schedule because you're in a hurry trying to make your schedule together as fast as possible and you aren't really thinking anything through, thus leaving huge gaps in your knowledge and skills over time. Or B, you start cramming too many things into your schedule, practicing each one only a few minutes a day. Now imagine if you only have 1 hour to practice and you try to cram picking exercises and legato exercises and string bending and vibrato and 2-hand tapping and songwriting and improvising and ear training and fretboard visualization and fixing bad habits and studying music theory and also learning some songs on top of it. That's 12 things you have to practice in 1 hour. If you do the math, that's 5 minutes for each item in your schedule. Now, can you make some progress on any of these things I mentioned in 5 minutes? Yeah, you could. But do you really think practicing everything for 5 minutes a day is the best use of your hour of practice time? I don't think so. It becomes like going to a guitar practice buffet and getting just a teaspoon sample of every food available without taking one full juicy bite of anything. Also remember, it takes more than 1 day to see meaningful progress on anything. And that means you've got to plan your practice time for each skill at least 5 to 7 days in advance to be certain you practice it frequently enough for meaningful progress to actually take place. Even if you live a perfectly predictable and perfectly boring life with no job, no school, no family, and no friends, you still can't predict how fast each skill is going to improve and what changes you might have to make as you go along. So my suggestion here is to plan your practice schedules for 5 to 7 days in advance. Mistake number 2, trying to copy your favorite guitar player's practice tips, practice habits, and practice schedules. Let me ask you, have you ever tried to solve a Rubik's Cube? A standard Rubik's Cube has 43 quintillion combinations. That's 43 followed by 18 zeros. And there are some people on YouTube who can solve the Rubik's Cube in just a few seconds, even blindfolded. They look at the Rubik's Cube, they instantly figure out the right moves needed to solve it, and boom, they just do it. Now imagine that, 43 quintillion combinations, and each combination has its own unique solution. But it seems like there are some people who know how to solve each possible combination. Now, what does this have to do with your guitar playing? Every guitar player is a hodgepodge of skills, strengths, weaknesses, bad habits, goals, personality type, level of innate natural talent, available practice time, musical interests, and even more variables. It's kind of like each guitar player is their own Rubik's Cube in a sense. And the moves that are required to solve your Rubik's Cube are slightly different from mine and from every other guitar player in the world. So let me ask you, what do you think are the chances of you having the exact same skill level, goals, bad habits, personality type, level of natural talent as someone else? 1 in 43 quintillion? Yeah, the odds are pretty small. Bottom line is this. Practicing is all about solving your specific problems and developing skills that you are missing at this point in your playing. And as tempting as it might be to copy what someone else did or what somebody else is doing right now, it's probably not going to work for you nearly as well as you hope. Trust me, I myself wish this wasn't the case. That would make practicing a whole lot easier for everybody, but hey, I don't make the rules, I just show you how to play the game. Mistake number 3, creating one practice routine and following it over and over and over and over again. If only I had $1 for every email I got from someone who's asking me to look over their practice routine and make sure it's okay. The problem here is this. Let's say you're going to the gym and your goal is to build muscle, and you write out a perfect starting program for yourself. You know what exercises to do, you know how many reps and how many sets to perform. Wonderful. In the first 1 or 2 weeks, you're seeing crazy gains. Awesome. But as you keep doing the same workout day in and day out for weeks and months, soon you notice something peculiar. The gains stop after a while, don't they? That's because as your body adapts to the training, you need to change the exercises, the sets, the reps, and of course, the amount of weight you use to keep progressing. And your training program needs to evolve as you evolve. And guess what? Your practice schedules for guitar are no different. Think back to our analogy about the Rubik's Cube and my earlier advice to create practice schedules for 5 to 7 days in advance. And if we're speaking loosely, each set of practice schedules is like one move of your Rubik's Cube. But it's not quite that simple, because even if you have practice schedules planned out for the next 5 to 7 days, it's impossible to know if they're the right ones for you unless we also know exactly where you're starting from, what your starting point is with all your skill level, goals, personality type, all of those things I mentioned earlier. Are you seeing the problem now? Creating practice schedules without context of where you are and where you want to go when you're playing is like printing out a lot of Monopoly money. Useless. And that leads us to mistake number 4. Practicing everything that you're weak at. Now this one is pretty controversial because on one hand, of course you have to work on your weaknesses. But on the other hand, not all weaknesses are relevant to your goals. Let me give you one more analogy. One of my personal passions outside of guitar is powerlifting. It's a rather one-dimensional sport, I admit, where all that matters is just your absolute strength and getting as strong as possible. Still, I enjoy powerlifting very much, and I've also got a lot of weaknesses that I've got to work on if I want to get stronger. But here's the thing. The only weaknesses I'm training are the ones that are related to me getting stronger. I don't work on agility or punching power or balance or flexibility or even extreme endurance outside of just doing some basic cardio to stay fit, or really any other athletic attributes like juggling or doing advanced bodyweight calisthenics. All of these things are weaknesses of mine, but they're not relevant to what my goal is. And I accept this because in my case, my goal is to become a better powerlifter, to lift as much weight as I possibly can. So back to your guitar playing. You, hopefully, have some goals for your playing. And you probably also have some strength in your guitar playing right now, and you also have weaknesses. We all do. That's normal. But the only weaknesses you ought to be working on are the ones that relate to your goals. Do that and ignore everything else, period. There you have it. 4 efficiency leaks to plug immediately if you want to make more progress without increasing your practice time. If you want to know more about how to make more progress with less practice, hit the link below. I'm going to show you a free 1-hour masterclass on 5 guitar progress accelerators you can use to make more progress starting in your very next practice session. Now, these things are real simple. You can use them whether you're a beginner, intermediate, or advanced guitar player, and yet they're powerful enough that hundreds of guitar players pay thousands of dollars to watch me teach these things live to them. But you can watch a recording absolutely free. Hit the link below, check it out, and I'll see you soon.